The Omega Speedmaster 1957 trilogy is a grail watch for many. It's perfect, it's historical, and it currently costs over $8,000 on the secondary market. But what if I told you that you could get 95% of that aesthetic, the exact same case dimensions, and a Swiss movement to boot for under $200? Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is George and I review watches. Today we are looking at something a little different. Usually when we talk about Speedmaster homages, we are talking about the Pagani designs or the Moons watches of the world, watches that capture the general vibe but often miss the soul of the original design. But here we have the Thorn T026. It is an unapologetic homage to the Omega Speedmaster 60th Anniversary Trilogy Edition. And unlike the Moon watch you see everywhere these days, this is based on the original 1957 CK2915. That means straight lugs, a steel bezel, broad arrow hands and a modest 38mm case. I've had this watch for a few weeks now and I've been comparing it directly to my own Omega Speedmaster 3594.50. And honestly, this is a great budget chronograph watch that if you like the design of the broad arrow Speedy, then it may be the ideal watch for you. First, a quick word on the brand. Thorn is a name that has been gaining significant traction within the AliExpress enthusiast community lately. While they might not have the same immediate name recognition as some of the long-standing darlings like San Martin or Chronos, they have carved out a very specific and successful space for themselves. In the broader AliExpress ecosystem, where it seems that all Chinese brands are competing on who can build the most robust diver, Thorn has found its niche by focusing on more unique and vintage models. In terms of price and positioning, Thorn sits comfortably in that sweet spot of the budget to mid-tier range, typically between $150 to $200. This puts them in direct competition with brands like Cistern or Suez and often offers a more refined design-led alternative to the more budget lines from the likes of Pagani Design or Spec. They've recently made waves with releases like the Frog Mantle, which shows they aren't just looking at the most obvious icons, but are willing to tackle more obscure cult classic designs. Their philosophy is simple: find a vintage watch that enthusiasts love but can't afford and build it to a surprisingly high spec for pennies on the dollar. While other brands are chasing original designs or modern aesthetics, Thorn seems perfectly content sitting in this high-spec homage niche, playing to a crowd that values design history and proportions over brand prestige. With the T026, they aren't just copying a generic Speedmaster, they are targeting a very specific limited edition reference that Omega released in 2017. The unboxing experience is exactly what you would expect from the price point, pretty utilitarian. Thorn ships these in a rugged, waterproof style plastic box. It's functional and honestly it makes for an excellent single watch travel case. Inside you get the watch with some protective packaging, no cards or manuals, it's pretty bare bones. Pulling it out of the box, the first thing that hits you is the size. If you're used to modern 42mm Speedmaster professionals, this feels tiny and svelte. But it feels correct and is historically accurate. The second thing you'll notice is the crystal. It is a massive, high-domed sapphire that mimics the shape of old-school acrylic. It creates these wonderful distortions at the edges of the dial, giving it that warm, vintage character right out of the gate. The finishing is surprisingly sharp. We have highly reflective brushed sides, polished tops on the lugs, and that signature steel tachymeter bezel. It feels dense, solid, and far more premium than the price tag suggests. It has that cold industrial charm that defined the early era of tool watches, where steel and aluminium prevailed before ceramic bezels. Let's talk pricing. At the time of filming, you can pick up the Thorn T026 for around $100 before any import taxes. Or if you're patient, you can pick it up for less if you wait for one of the big AliExpress sales throughout the year. For around half the price of a Moons watch, which is made of plastic and can't be repaired, you are getting a 316L stainless steel case, a sapphire crystal, a solid link bracelet, and a Swiss quartz movement. This is a really good value proposition. Now dimensions. This is where Thorn has done their homework. They haven't just taken a generic case and slapped a dial on it. They have cloned the 1957 proportions almost exactly. My calipers read 38.6mm across the bezel. This is historically accurate to the CK2915. We have a lag-to-lag measurement of 47mm. While that might sound long for a 38mm watch, the straight lugs curve down gently so it hugs the wrist well. Here's the kicker. It's only 12.4mm thick, including that high domed crystal. Because it's quartz, they've managed to keep it slim. The lug width is 19mm. I know it's annoying if you have a box full of 20mm straps, but again it is historically accurate, and today the vast majority of brands offer 19mm strap variants of their product lineup. It's a small price to pay for proportions that feel this balanced and are historically correct. This brings me to a very important comparison. I have my own Omega Speedmaster 3594.50 here. This is often called the replica or the Broad Arrow re-edition, released by Omega in the late 90s. Both of these watches are trying to look like the 1957 original, but they go about it in very different ways. The Omega 3594.50 uses the classic Moonwatch professional case. That means it is 42mm, it has the twisted lyre lugs and the asymmetrical case shape with the crown guards integrated into the side. It is essentially a Moonwatch wearing a vintage costume. The Thorn, on the other hand, actually uses a straight lug case found on the original Speedy and the 2017 Trilogy edition. There are no crown guards and the sides are flat and slab-sided. Visually, the Thorn is actually a more faithful reproduction of the 1957 silhouette than my 90s Omega is. My Omega feels more substantial, heavy and planted. The Thorn feels compact and nimble. The steel bezels are similar, both are base 1000 tachymeters, but the font on the Thorn is tiny. Anyone with not so good eyesight won't be able to read the tachymeter scale. Not that 99% of the people who will buy it will ever want to use it. Of course, the Omega feels more refined in the hand, the overall finishing is a lot better, the brassing is deeper, the steel feels warmer, and the whole watch feels more solid and well made. And let's not talk movements, but we are comparing a $180 watch to a watch that now trades anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000. The fact that they can even sit on the same table without the Thorn looking like a cheap imitation is a testament to how far these Chinese micro brands have come. Let's zoom in on the dial. We have a matte black surface with a slight grain to it. The text Space Walker is printed at 12 o'clock. Is it a bit cheesy? Yep. Is it the worst we've seen from AliExpress brands or even from Thorn? Nope. But the font choice is at least restrained and it balances the dial well. Also, if we're being honest, it's very small to read. The indices here are subtle, they are long, thin batons that are just barely recessed into the dial surface. It's a very clean execution that gives the dial just enough depth whilst looking clean and uncluttered. The markers are filled with a vintage toned Luminova, call it Fotina or aged patina, whatever your preference, but it works perfectly here. I know most of you dislike Fotina, but on the watch that is specifically emulating a 60-year-old antique, it works. It adds warmth and depth to an otherwise monochromatic design. The broad arrow hands are the star of the show and my favorite Speedy hands out of any version. You have that massive imposing arrow as the arrow hand and the sword style for the minute hand. They are polished steel, which can sometimes get lost against the black dial in low light, but they catch the light beautifully when you tilt your wrist. One detail to note is the subdial layout. Because this uses a quartz movement, the subdials are slightly different from a mechanical Speedmaster. The spacing is a bit wider, pushing towards the edges of the dial. It doesn't look bad, just slightly different, and you will only notice it if you spend as much time staring at dials as I do. The case is made from 316L stainless steel, the brassing on the sides is vertical and fairly consistent, the transition between the brassed sides and the polished lug tops is good for the price, but the side brassing is very superficial. You can feel a slight edge with your fingernail, but it's crisp enough to look well finished. The crown is a screw-down crown, which gives this watch a claimed 100 meters of water resistance, so in theory you could actually swim with this Thorn, though I probably wouldn't push my luck in the deep end. After all, the pushers are pump style, so I'm not sure about that water resistance, but they feel tactile and responsive, giving you a satisfying click when you start the timer. The movement works exactly as the mechanical counterpart. Push the top pusher to start and pause the second hand, and push the bottom pusher to reset the chrono. The caseback on the T026 is a simple screw-down affair that keeps the profile slim and contributes to that 100 meters of water resistance. In the center, we have the Thorn logo neatly engraved, and surrounding the edge of the caseback, there is a recurring pattern marking that adds a bit of visual interest to an otherwise functional area. It keeps the watch sitting close to the skin, maintaining those slim proportions we've discussed earlier. Inside, we don't have a mechanical chronograph, we have the Swiss Ronda 5030D. Now, before you dismiss this because it's quartz, consider the benefits. This is a high-torque, gold-plated, repairable Swiss movement. It has metal gears and 13 jewels. It's not a disposable plastic movement. The benefit here is reliability and thinness. A mechanical chronograph at this thickness would cost significantly more and be much more expensive to service. Plus, the Ronda 5030D allows for a 12-hour counter at the 6 o'clock subdial, which makes it a functional tool for timing long events. The chronograph seconds hand ticks once per second, so yeah, we don't have that sweeping movement. The bracelet is a flat link style, mimicking the vintage Omega 7077 bracelets. It has brassed center links with fully polished sides. Overall, the bracelet is great, it feels sturdy and well finished. It's very smooth to the touch and drapes around the wrist beautifully. Also, it doesn't pull any hair. The clasp punches way above its class. It's a milled, solid clasp featuring on-the-fly micro adjustment that works seamlessly. You can quickly resize the bracelet on the go, choosing from 4 different accentuation levels. To add to the already excellent bracelet and clasp, the Thorn features quick-release bracelet end links, which is always a welcome addition and not commonly seen in budget watches. On my 6.5-inch wrist, it feels perfectly proportioned. The 38.6mm diameter is that sweet spot for anyone who appreciates vintage sizing. Because the lugs are straight and a bit long, it has plenty of presence, but it sits low and flat thanks to that thin quartz profile. Compared to the 3594.50, which sits tall and proud like a modern sports watch, the Thorn disappears under the cuff. It feels refined, it feels elegant. It's a chronograph you can wear with a suit or a t-shirt. Lume is actually the Achilles heel of budget watches, but Thorn has done a respectable job here. They use C3 Superluminova and it glows a strong green. Is it Seiko Diver Bright? No. The application on the printed indices is a little thin compared to the hands, so the hands tend to outshine the dial as the night goes on. But it is legible enough and it's evenly applied without any blotchiness, at least on my model. For a vintage style chronograph, it's more than adequate. However, if strong and long-lasting lume is a key point for you, I would maybe look at something else. Right, final thoughts. The Thorn Speedy is a fascinating watch. It's a Chinese homage to a Swiss limited edition, powered by a Swiss quartz movement, selling for the price of a decent dinner. If you're a purist who needs a mechanical movement, this might not be for you. If you can't get past the 19mm lugs, I understand. But if you have been lusting after the look of the 1957 Speedmaster, that specific combination of steel bezel, broad arrow hands and straight lugs, there's simply no better way to get it on a budget. It wears better than my Omega broad arrow because the dimensions are more accurate to the 1957 source material and it's built really well. It is a fantastic, fun, worry-free way to wear one of the most beautiful watch designs in history. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me continue to bring these deep dives to you. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.